Hello and welcome once again to episode 104 of Code Completion. We're a group of iOS developers and educators hoping to share what we love most about development, Apple technology, and completing your code. My name is Dimitri and I'll be your host once again for this episode, and I'm joined today by my fellow completionist, Spencer.
Hey there.
So the past few weeks have actually been really busy. So busy that we completely forgot to release an episode that we actually recorded. We just never released it. And then we used that opportunity, because we're hard thinkers over here at Code Completion, to skip recording last week because I was completely unavailable because I was traveling for the first time in 2 years, which was an experience.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, this room was way messier 5 minutes ago as I came back into it because this was my semi-quarantine room after coming back from traveling, so I don't get my wife sick with potential stuff. But yeah, thankfully I was not sick. So yay for traveling safely.
That's good. That's always, yeah. When I traveled to Seattle for work too, it was mask up. We were pretty much the only people with masks on the plane. And now I'm thinking, this is just gross recirculated air. I'll probably wear a mask always when I fly now. Kind of, I don't know. Things have changed in the last few years, definitely perspective-wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sad to say that I am still seeing anti-mask sentiment, which is unnecessary. Not from anyone that I work with or anything like that, thankfully. But from people I've known for a very long time, they're like, oh, you can't be afraid of dying. And I'm like, I'm not afraid of dying because I'm wearing a mask. But that's a very interesting argument to need to get into with people you knew your entire life, and it's a little sad that it's come to this, but hopefully as time goes on, people will just be a little bit more accepting of just wearing masks for various reasons, whether people are sick or whether you don't want to be sick, stuff like that.
Yeah, agreed. I think it'll happen eventually.
Yeah. Talking about changes that are happening. The HIG is actually getting a changelog, which is amazing because the HIG has seen some pretty immense changes over the years. It's been completely revamped several times. So this is quite surprising that not only is it getting a changelog, which is something that old Apple developer articles used to get, at the very bottom, they would say what they changed. This is a searchable changelog, so you can actually find the change that you're looking for and to see exactly how that might impact you. So I think this is really cool.
Yeah, I just took a look at it. It's nice. It's actually going back all the way till June of this year. So I don't know how long it's actually been here, if they made a backlog or something. But some of these things are designing an effective chart, right? And it's kicking you over to a dub video or their actual, whoops, let me go back. I saw one that was adding some information for the Apple Watch Ultra for app icons. So it looks like it's giving you individual kind of articles or videos, but also saying specifically in app icons, we changed this thing or added this thing. So kind of I would kind of say a fairly complex or fairly detailed sort of changelog of what happened, whether it's it says completely new page or adding things to an existing page. So that's kind of nice. And the filters, you can search, but filters are guidance, videos, articles, and resources as well. So resources would be design kits. Articles would be, looks like all that they have right now are called Behind the Design. And it's going into specific apps, which I haven't ever looked at, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, I guess for me, this is nice. And I thought it was worth talking about because the HIG is sort of this impenetrable thing that is so large that it can be perhaps hard to, unless you know what you're looking for, it can be kind of hard to know where do I even look for new Apple Watch Ultra information or whatever it is that you're kind of specific to looking for, and you just kind of have to go through the sidebar and figure out where does this stuff exist. So this can be, I mean, I'm sure it'll be nice now, but especially as this changelog gets bigger and bigger, it will be even more and more useful. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I think my biggest qualm with the HIG is that Apple does not follow it in a lot of situations, which is problematic because if you try to argue, hey, we need to do it this way because of the HIG, then all of a sudden that is not like something that you can kind of use, because they'll point to, hey, Apple Music does it differently and Apple Notes does it differently, and it's like, then what's the point of having the HIG if you can't use it as like an argument basis?
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely frustrating, and I know that. Well, even like within the code completionist, there's like I don't know, sentiment about that kind of stuff, like with Fernando and his kind of hating on macOS, and he brings up some good points about like things that have changed and are inconsistent, I suppose, and perhaps not best for the user. And like, I think he makes a good argument, maybe not. I don't know everything about both his sentiment and what is best for the user, but kind of brings up good points about the way that things used to be, like with the status bar or title, whatever, the window, top of the window, and talking about that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know, that's a whole thing with making sure that Apple actually follows their own guidelines and stuff, but maybe it's just guidelines for the plebs. I don't know.
Well, the good news, I think, is that the HIG is improving and evolving in a way that can represent the information for all the platforms. Like, something new that I've noticed recently is on the right side of the HIG pages, you'll go ahead and see like which platforms this is specific for and what exceptions there are for those platforms. So I think it's good that Apple is going in this direction, and the HIG is certainly in a good starting point. It just needs like some internal buy-in for all of those lessons to actually be like used in practice, right? Sure. And I think that will probably be the point where like the HIG is serving its purpose as well as it can be, because if people inside Apple are not following it, then there's a major miscommunication there, because the HIG is not there as like, oh, there's no reason why we're doing this. Like, my favorite example is the 3 dots after a menu item. Mm-hmm. It's not arbitrary. There's a reason why those 3 dots are there, and that's because by clicking on that menu item, nothing is going to happen. You're going to have a dialogue that's going to come up to further confirm or ask for like something. So that way you don't end up in a situation where you we're just clicking around and then you unexpectedly perform certain actions. And iOS has kind of always been of this mantra, like, don't do anything and let the user kind of tap around and discover things, because there's no discovery otherwise. There's no tooltips. There's no help section. There's no nothing. So it always has had to be kind of like this. But as iPhone apps have become more in-depth, this kind of thinking has had to change, right? You have to now figure out, oh, we need to stow away more options. What kind of button is that going to be behind? Is it going to be behind a hamburger? Is it going to be behind a 3 dot? Is it going to be behind some other iconography? Is it going to be behind some text? All of those different options are now in use, and there's a whole bunch of different kinds of avenues that you can explore. So like those 3 dots, those tell the user, hey, you're going to be totally safe by tapping on this button or this menu item, and nothing bad is going to happen yet. You'll be given further explanations down the line, so you can definitely go through and tap on this to kind of explore what's going further. And if something doesn't have a 3 dot in a menu item or something, then that indicates, hey, this should be totally obvious to you what it's going to do. And if it's not, that's a failure on the developer to kind of not use like best practices or make use of like anti-patterns that are not like jiving with the user, or may be too specific to a certain like realm of software that some users might understand and others just won't. So there's a lot that three dots like adds, and the HIG just has like a sentence on it when it used to have a paragraph. And I think it needs to get back to that paragraph so that way it's like really convincing why we're doing it this way, and it's not just like, hey, we're following this practice because computer users are used to it. I would definitely like to see those motivations kind of be brought back, especially since like it's not like the HIGs are lost, right? The HIGs of past, those are still available, just you have to hunt for them. And they're much longer, which is totally okay. Like we have big fast computers that can search for stuff. As long as you organize and index that information, then having more is not worse. So yeah. A+ for having searchable like change logs to the HIG. Now we just need more changes to chonk it up a bit. And then as it gets chonked up, we need Apple to listen to its own advice. And I think then we'll be in a good place to make arguments for why we should like follow one set of patterns over another.
Yeah. That reminds me, I had that exact conversation about the three dots at work when we were trying to kind of make the Mac app a little bit better, and it came down to adding keyboard shortcuts. Let's see. Yeah, and like menu bar items. They were kind of in tandem. And I didn't know that rule, and Andrew Madsen, being like the longtime veteran of like Mac development that he immediately caught that, you know, the strings were wrong. They didn't have the three dots when they needed to. And I hadn't heard of that. And so I think there's like a lot of this, I don't know what you call it. Like, I want to call it like acquired knowledge, but that sounds dumb. But just this like domain knowledge that you know, he's been in the space for so long, well over a decade, way over a decade at this point, probably. That he's, you know, he knows these patterns just like the back of his hand, and it's just second nature to him, where I didn't even think to look in the HIG probably in that point. But my point is, like, I think we've maybe talked about this before, where it seems like a lot of like the kind of veterans of like Mac development are kind of have left, or maybe leaving Apple, or just, you know, retiring or whatever. And so like a lot of that knowledge is getting perhaps lost to time if it's not already in a blog post or something.
It's almost like it wasn't properly documented.
Yes, exactly. So making the time to actually document that stuff, you know, in a place where it's all centrally located and everyone knows about it, like the HIG, would be nice. I don't know how to sort of make that happen, but it would be nice. So,
and maybe that's a good reason for the HIG not to be big, right? Like I was just arguing that like it needs to be bigger. We need to have more explanation, but maybe that information should be at a level deeper that you have to like click into to really know.
Yeah.
And the HIG should be its current size, so that way, like once a year at least, every developer can kind of dedicate like an hour of their time to read through the HIG. And that's something I used to do with like every new OS version. And I've stopped recently, unfortunately. I don't know, probably because I was busy. But it would be good for developers to, like, especially when they're getting into the platform, to definitely read through and categorize that information within their own mind, so that way they can remember it when it counts. Because, like, sure, reading through it is good. It's not the most like juicy fictionist drama that you can read through and like really retain it all. There's really none of that. It's kind of like, if this happens, do this. If you want this, then do this. Right. So it's kind of bland in that regard. But if they can accentuate that with diagrams and images that can help you remember like that piece of information when it counts, I think that would fulfill its purpose more. And then the more people that do go through it, the more people that can like at least remember where others forget. And I guess especially born at Apple, like, come on, no excuse there. But I'm sure like everyone is under immense stresses for like shipping things on time and stuff like that. But
yeah,
$1 trillion company, no excuses.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to like have two layers, like human interface guidelines and like human interface documentation or something. I don't know. Um, yeah, it'd be cool.
I mean, they can make use of disclosure triangles and open up
What?
Lohan.
What are those? I'm just kidding.
Well, if you really wonder what those are, you can go ahead and ask Apple,
Ah,
because Ask Apple is a brand new thing that Apple is trying out this year, and it feels very much like an evolution of the Tech Notes that Apple has had in not Tech Notes. I'm saying this wrong.
Tech Talks,
Uh,
right?
no,
No.
they had some tech meetup things that were not WWDC. Oh no, what I'm forgetting the word. But they had something that was like WWDC, except not WWDC because it was like a traveling troupe of tech questionnaire type things. What's it called? Oh, this is gonna bug me for the rest of the show. But Ask Apple, Spencer, what is it? While I quickly look up.
Yeah,
place
yeah.
it.
Yeah, so it's kind of two things it looks like. So it's a way. So I'll just kind of read their headline. It says, "Join us for Ask Apple, a new series for developers to connect directly with Apple experts. Ask about integrating the latest the latest technologies, designing intuitive UIs, testing on beta software, and so much more." So they kind of have two things here. They have Q&As and office hours. The Q&As are sort of, I thought, an interesting way of doing this, and I think they've done this something similar in the past, where it's just sort of asking questions about different topics through Slack. So it's not like you need to, jump on a Zoom call and be kind of live, have a microphone and camera to ask your questions, or WebEx or whatever they use. It's just over Slack, and I'd assume they have a bunch of different channels for all of these different topics. They've got like 12 or so topics, which is pretty cool. So, if you want to ask a question about Swift UI, I'd assume that they have people working on the Swift UI team at Apple just in that Slack group, and you can just ask questions and probably get answers both from them and other people that are in that Slack group too, which would be cool. Just again, kind of build this, microcosm of a community around whatever topic you're looking for. And then office hours is where you can create a one-on-one consultation about whatever. So let's see. Actually, I don't know much about office hours. Dimitri, can you enlighten us?
Yeah, so I used the power of rapidly researching something to find out that it was called Tech Talks. I knew it had tech in it, and there's a lot of words, duopoly words with tech in them. Yes. Tech debt, tech notes. Tech notes are those articles that Apple publishes that like focus on a specific thing. But Tech Talks are what Apple had pre-pandemic times. Apple would actually visit different cities, so that way you can have like a little mini WWDC and talk with Apple engineers that way. And post-pandemic, they have been kind of like mini WWDCs where you would go ahead and have an opportunity to both have like one-on-ones where you can get like basically these office hours. You can ask a question in advance, register for a time, and then they would go ahead and like meet up with you after having like looked into your issue a little tiny bit.
Right.
And then you can speak directly with the engineer or two who can go ahead and like answer your questions and get you unstuck so that way you can make progress on your app. So those have been really, really cool to have. And it's really nice to have them not at WWDC time, because at WWDC time, you're so busy ingesting all this new information that you can't ask questions about it yet. You didn't really have an opportunity to try it out, to play with it. So it's great that a few months later that we have this opportunity to kind of go in and now ask questions more properly.
Nice. That's super cool. Yeah, I remember as you were speaking, it sounded like I just had flashbacks to when I went to DubDub and standing in a line waiting for, Paul Solt was the one that was actually asking a question, but I was with him. We were just standing in line waiting to, get help from someone at Apple. And it took a long time. There were just lines snaking out of the room that they were in, and you just kind of had to sit there. So it's kind of cool that you can just. I'm sure you probably just get a time and ask your question, get a time, and you don't have to worry about it. So perhaps a more efficient way of doing that. That's cool.
Yeah, and it's way more open to more than just the 5,000 people who happen to get tickets to Dub Dub.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I think is a huge improvement over like the in-personness of WWDC.
Oh, yeah.
I think like this past year is probably an excellent mix where like you have people come in for a day or two to like watch the keynote and be excited all together. But then from that point forward, you can go ahead and like digest it at your own pace and not necessarily be like forced to kind of keep up with everything then and now, which was quite a burden for a lot of people. Like a lot of people would not watch sessions until like 3-4 weeks afterwards, slowly digesting the ones that they're interested in. Yeah. So being able to ask questions at a much later date, like October, I think is perfect. So these start October 17th through the 21st. So if you have not signed up for them, go sign up for them. This is perhaps a late message for most, but yeah, go do that. It's definitely going to be like even if you have a simple question, like there are two kinds of these Q&As. There are some that like they will go ahead and present something, and then you can ask questions at the end of it through the WebEx like chat thing. So that has always like worked pretty well as well, because then if you don't ask a question, someone else might, and then you might be inspired by their question to like look into something more. So that the group kind of setting of asking questions, I think, is very helpful because it kind of inspires everyone to learn way more than they thought they would through that process. And then the one-on-ones are really useful if you have like some code that you don't necessarily want to share, or some questions that you don't want everyone to kind of listen in on because they're maybe very specific to what you're doing in your app. Then I guess you have to share it with Apple. But at that point, Apple can help you more directly, kind of like using a developer technical support ticket, which you get 2 of as a paid developer account, which costs $99 for those who don't know. And you can buy more if you run out of them. And Apple can directly help you. Basically say, hey, I have a problem with X. Here's my code. And then they'll get back to you a few days later and say like, okay, we've looked into it with these engineers. You might want to try this, this, and this. Yeah, I don't know have you ever used those, Spencer?
I haven't personally. I know that at work we have before, or I don't know. Our relationship with Apple is like, we have people at Apple that we talk to. So I don't know when we actually use like the technical support and when we just ask someone. I don't know. I think we're in a semi-unique
you guys
position.
Are lucky.
Yeah. I haven't personally, but as I was looking at these office hours, that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, it sounds exactly like that, except of course these office hours are only for this week. So, but it's free.
Yeah.
So that'd be cool if you can, take advantage of that.
Yeah, definitely. So I have used the DTSs
awesome.
Before, and they have not, they've unfortunately not been useful. It's basically ended up in please file a bug because there's no workaround. There's no way around this at all, which was unfortunate, but like expected at that point, right? Like you reach your wit's end and then you try asking, and then it's like, no, this is not possible, and you're like, oh, yeah. So that is one potential outcome, but if you have not necessarily explored everything in advance, then those can be very, very helpful. So I do encourage anyone to at least give them a try. Don't let them just sit there and expire at the end of the year, because you get 2 fresh ones every year. So definitely go ahead and use them up, because they're a resource that is available to you. Especially if you don't know, like, hey, I might need to use this in the future. Use it now, because like if you really need to use it, you can always buy more, and they're not super, super expensive. It's like $50 for one-on-one time with an Apple engineer, which is pretty useful if this is your business. And if you don't need to use them, then you don't need to use them, right? So yeah. And finally, we have a new reports coming in that Apple's finally taking in-app purchase scams more seriously with iOS 16 betas, and they're drastically improving what the... I was 16.1 betas. Did I say that? I don't know. But they're drastically improving what the in-app purchase sheet looks like and how it clarifies how much you're going to be spending and big, bold characters. So that way it's no longer a surprise that you may be scammed by paying like $20 a week for no particular reason, because, yeah, in-app purchases are awesome.
Yeah. I think we'll post a link to the tweet, and it has sort of this timeline from iOS 14 to 14.5 to 16.1 with those changes. And I honestly kind of like the look of the iOS 14 one. Like, it is kind of slim and trimmed down, but I definitely agree that it's so easy to just like gloss over. Like, the price text is almost the same size as everything else, of the same font sizes as everything else, like the policy and talking about when it will renew and everything. And so it's just easy to gloss over that and just totally forget it. So this one looks a little bit more like, I guess the closest thing I can compare it to is like the iOS software update sheet that pulls up. I don't know. It's a little inset, but the biggest thing is that it at the pretty much right at the top and the largest text bolded and everything is how much it will cost and if there's a free trial. So that's pretty great. So that, under that is talking about like when it will renew and everything, and that's kind of like the text that you don't need to know near as much about. Yeah,
by definition.
It's just details, right? But it's like, you will pay $99 per week or whatever. So hopefully it's, yeah, man, that stuff, that's so shady, dude. I hate that stuff, that kind of stuff actually goes through as if there's a reason to pay. I can't fathom to think what would be a legitimate, like, $99 a week, in-app purchase type of thing. And
it's when you're getting support tickets twice a week from Apple.
Okay, yeah, but that's from Apple. I don't know. It's shady. Half of me, like the cynical part of me, just thinks like Apple isn't doing a ton about it because they still get 30% of that, and they're like, yeah, whatever. We'll overlook it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were kind of hoping, market pressures would prevent these situations. Because like, why would you pay $99 a week? That's like obviously a waste of money. Especially when apps that are $1 forever, that's like way too much. Like, forget about $5 forever. That's a highway robbery there. And we end up with a situation where a bunch of scam apps are basically milking people out of, I'm not gonna say their life savings, but like a portion of that, with these like weekly subscription costs. And I can't imagine this is a zero cost for Apple once those customers like realize what they've done, and then go complain to support. Like, Apple should not ever fight those requests, and they probably do refund them immediately. But like, that can't be a zero cost for them. And sure, they might take it out of the developer's like earnings, but if the developer hasn't earned, they can't take out any. So they're kind of forced to like pay it out themselves. And that is not ideal. So I think having more clarity here, and they're not going all the way that they can. Like, it's still like telling the user, hey, this is going to be $20 per week. And that's going to be nice and big. But they're not really saying, hey, $20 a week is $20 times 52, which is a stupid amount of money per year. And that's the number you should really be paying attention to. Yeah. That they're not really like going deeper in. And it's kind of like you said, Spencer, the cynical take here is that Apple like is going to do the bare minimum here to like make it as obvious as possible to reduce those support tickets. But they're not really going to hide the fact that $20 a week is a horrible thing. They're just going to make it obvious that it is $20 a week. Because that can really amount to a lot of money. And people just may not ever realize that they're going to be paying $1,000 a year for something, right?
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting evolution to have it basically do like a cost breakdown and be like, hey, over a year, you are going to pay that much, and have it like list that out in that sheet before you pay. Just so you know, you'll be spending $12,000 in a year because this thing's charging you so much every week or whatever. It'd be interesting.
And the ironic thing is that like well-meaning apps, they give you that yearly breakdown, because what it pushes you towards is, instead of paying monthly, you now pay for the year, because the year is cheaper to pay for up front than it is to pay 12 monthly installments. Because for a company, it's more useful to have that guarantee that you're going to be there for a year. Yeah. So like that is not a bad thing to list out that price, and that's something that it's kind of disappointing that like Apple is not kind of forcing, because they do have that heavy-handed fist with the App Store, saying that everything has to go through app review, everything has to be vetted by us to be of quality, and all sorts of stuff that I am like currently ramming my head against in side projects and in real life projects. So the App Store is like sometimes a great frustration to get through when you're well-meaning, and it seems like it's stupidly easy for not well-meaning individuals to get their foot in and kind of cause some chaos. And Apple is, as you said, completely okay with this because they get 30% of that, and out of nowhere that has become a significant portion of their income, so why would they want to get rid of it, right? And yeah, I wonder if it, like, I don't even know if there's investor pressure to continue doing this. Like, what is the purpose for Apple to continue amassing this wealth when they're like not really using it?
It's just stuffed away in a freaking vault.
Yeah, I don't get it personally. But I guess good on them. They're doing the business thing. It's the business thing has not been what Apple has been doing up until quite recently. And everyone seemed a lot happier supporting them when that was the case. And this is souring a lot of people's opinions about Apple. And I don't think this is going to be easy to regain once a significant portion of these people have just given up, right?
Yep, agreed. I'm kind of...
It's just Go for it.
Sorry. I was just going to say... I don't know if this is like directly related, but like it's been a hot minute since I've heard anything about like the Apple, Epic, whatever App Store stuff, and it's, you know, not directly related, but just seems like it's kind of died, and you know, nothing's going to change. Not that I'm saying, you know, another App Store would be the best thing, but just this stuff getting past review, and then I know that you and I think Fernando or Ben were having some trouble with the App Store. Just getting your own app in when it's like, it's a good app. You know what I mean? Like you're I don't know. It's frustrating, that kind of stuff. Just doesn't seem quite as even, or it seems almost like a luck of the draw, especially with like App Store review, just like whether it gets in or not. So it's a bummer.
Mm-hmm. And to be clear, like there are some legitimate reasons why your app might be rejected. Like you didn't do due diligence going through the requirements and stuff like that. And then there are like the gut punch ones where it's like the reviewer says, hey, your app is non-functional, and they literally send you a screenshot of a screen with an error message that says, hey, you're not connected to the internet. Please try again. And it's like, at that point, there's not much you can do other than like calmly explain to them, hey, you were tired, please read what is on the screen. This is not even my error. This is through Apple's components. Like I have very little control over this. So like,
send them an Apple support article of like how to use Control Center to turn on Wi-Fi or something.
Yeah. So like, I totally get that some facets of app review are like legitimate, but then other aspects just feel like gut punches. And I don't know if that's because app review got way faster. Like it's just a side effect of that. It used to take 2 weeks. And I remember that dearly. Like it's still in my head. Oh, this I'm going to submit now because it's going to be 3 weeks until I hear back from Apple.
Right.
And that is like an industry norm. It's not even that crazy to think of. Like when you're submitting something to Nintendo, it's like, hey, it's gonna take a while. That's just part of the process, and it's just been opened up to more people and more regular people that are not used to that industry. That it has become such a like cutthroat game of it needs to go fast, 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 and therefore fast, fast, fast means it's gonna be sloppy. And yeah, I don't know what the long-term benefit of like still having something like this is for every app. And I've mentioned many times before, it might be time to not have app review for everything. Like have app review for the best of the best. Like if you want to be cataloged in the App Store for people to be easily find, go through app review. If you don't care and you want to do it all yourself, just skip app review and like ship your app yourself, right? Get the basic signatures that Apple can reject on you if you go and try to like scam people out of their livelihoods. But that is like completely separate from like, oh, your app is not working as designed. Like, yeah, maybe I can put extra checks to like have it check the internet connection before you go to the page that needs to load. And that's like, sure, that can be on me. And if Apple really wants to insist on that to get into the hyper premium version of the App Store, that's there's only a few products there and you're like competing with the best of the best at that point, then that's like one thing. But if it's being there with all the other crud that is like scamming people for weeks, then like it doesn't feel worth it.
Yep, agreed. So many, I don't know, man. It's like whenever you're beholden to the shareholders and like the company's goal is just to make money. It's like it's super frustrating when it seems like there are so many good ideas on like how to fix this, like from you, from Fernando, from everyone on Twitter and everything. And it's just like, it doesn't seem like it'll ever happen. Like, I don't know, I'm a little jaded and I just think like they'll never change what they do, especially with the App Store, which sucks because it's like I love working on this platform and the hardware and everything is so great and just what you're able to do, but then it's kind of like a gut punch when you have to deal with this kind of stuff, and it's like, is this the same company?
I mean, they're making it definitely easier for someone else to come in, right? It's not like it's going to happen overnight. No one's going to be able to come in with the hardware and software proficiency that Apple currently has. But in 10 years of Apple continuing to do this, heck, someone can have 10 years to like get the right people together to like overthrow this. And that is going to be Apple's fault if it ever happens, right? Because enough people are going to be fed up with this eventually that they are going to have great ideas and they're going to take them with themselves. And perhaps those are people that left Apple. Perhaps those are people that have worked with Apple for years and are disgruntled by this. So it's always an opportunity to like think about why Apple got the popularity and got the success that it currently has, and that's because they weren't doing things like this, or at least not as overtly. Yes, they were always stubborn. That has never really changed, but now they're stubborn with a giant hammer of, look at all the services revenue. And that's the part that's not really melding very well, at least in my eyes. Mm-hmm. This week's episode of Code Completion is brought to you by Huuungry. Huuungry, that's Hungry with 3 U's, is the iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch app you turn to when you really want to eat but are blinded by the multitude of choices available to you and your insatiable hunger. Huuungry isn't here to help you discover new restaurants or flavors. No, it has a much more humble purpose. You tell it all about your favorite restaurants, and it will deploy its cryptographically advanced random number generator, invoked by shaking your phone in frustration, to make the decision of what to eat for you. Stuck at home in quarantine and sick of ordering pizza? Use Huuungry. Did Huuungry just suggest pizza again? Don't fret, as options for another cuisine, a cheaper option, something closer, or simply another option are just a button away. Huuungry also comes with a collection of fun animated iMessage stickers so you can share your hunger with others. Thanks again to Huuungry for sponsoring our show. Search for Huuungry, that's Huuungry, on the App Store today to give it a try. So now it's time for our code completion tip. And this week I have a fun one because I was submitting stuff to Apple and getting rejected for it. But before I was getting rejected for it, I was reminded yet again that Apple has a great way to skip that prompt that asks if your app is export compliant. So to give a little bit of background, export compliance is a remnant of wartime efforts to prevent foreign entities from gaining too much power and being able to communicate securely. I think the cat is basically out of the bag at this point in terms of like what encryption standards are available worldwide. But you still cannot share like really, really secure encryption standards, basically long keys, with other countries. Like it's just illegal, at least if you live in the United States. If you live elsewhere, I'm sure you have different laws for that. But in the United States, they don't want you to share that kind of power through software that's vended through the United States. And if you do want to share that power, you need to go and basically tell the government, hey, I am shipping software that has really, really secure stuff. Basically, keep tabs on me, please, so that way I don't commit treason, I guess. So that's what export compliance is all about. It's really weird. And Apple is like, I guess, making sure that developers don't commit fault out of negligence and not knowing what the hell that is. Because like, who would? Other than, I guess, if you're Apple and like the government came knocking and said, hey, you need to do your export compliance. So long story short, export compliance is something that you need to do if you have some encryption in your app. And this basically means any encryption, including HTTPS, which is fun. So usually you need to go ahead and tell the government, hey, I'm doing nothing weird. I'm just using the plain simple stuff. Like just letting you know, you submit a form and then you send them an email once a year telling them, hey, still doing nothing weird. Here's what I'm doing. And that's how you have export compliance. They will send you a sheet the first time they hear from you. And you send that sheet to Apple and they will say, hey, okay, we've received your certification for this, and you can go ahead and like type this number in from this point forward, and you don't need to keep like giving us a new sheet. You just tell us like it's the same sheet. And they ask this via a questionnaire that says, hey, do you use non-exempt encryption? And at this point you say yes or no, kind of thing. Or do you use encryption? You say yes or no. You have to say yes if you have HTTPS traffic. Fun fact. Even though most people don't do that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Well, it's your server, so you're using encryption. If you don't use a connection to your server, if you use a connection to Apple's server, then it's Apple using the encryption. So that's a fun thing to think about. And yeah, so you have to say yes or no to that, and then finally you go a step further, and if you answered yes, they ask you, do you use exempt or non-exempt encryption? And if you use non-exempt encryption, then you don't have to do anything extra. Basically, if you're communicating with Apple or you're only using the stuff that Apple's providing, then you are using exempt encryption. If you're using non-exempt encryption, basically you're doing it yourself, you're communicating to your server. You need to tell the government, hey, my server's not using the state-of-the-art of encryption here. It's just going to take 20 years for someone to crack. Not a huge big deal kind of thing. Yeah. Then you kind of tell them that. And you have to do this with every app submission, which gets tiring. So you can go ahead and add a key. And I think they actually tell this to you in that dialogue if you like slow down and read it, that you can add a key called ITS app uses non-exempt encryption to your info.p list. And from that point forward, the App Store Connect screen is not going to ask you every time, hey, do you use non-exempt encryption? And you can get away with using the same answer that you put in. So it's not saying yes or no, it works for both the yes or no scenarios. And you basically can supply a secondary key with the number that Apple gave you from the accreditation, whatever that word is. And you can skip those prompts by supplying this. So yeah, if you've ever wondered what on earth the encryption thing was about, that's what it's about. It's kind of not super necessary in today's day and age where like all information is available to everyone. Excuse me. But yeah, I guess Apple is standing up for the U.S. government here and giving them that public service announcement ability, because otherwise the government would have to hunt down every little individual company. And yeah. So I don't think anyone enforces any of this. So you did not hear it here, but you can probably get away with saying no to having encryption, and no one would think twice about it. But if you want to do the right thing, you have to, and not be treasonous to the United States of America, which is always a good thing. You should answer appropriately. And send an email saying, hey, nothing changed, to the BIS.NIS or whatever they're called. And yeah, that's how that whole system works.
Cool.
Spencer, from Mini Review Corner, I hear you bought a new fun little toy.
Yes. So I bought this right before my trip to Seattle. And it was it's $20. It's this little buddy. This kind of just thin little thing. It almost looks like a vape pen. Now that I look at it, but it's kind of just this travel kit, portable travel kit thing. So, it's got a couple things. One, it just opens up to be a phone holder. So I used it when I was eating lunch, and I just propped my phone up and was watching YouTube, which is kind of cool. Then you can kind of pull out the whole thing. And what it has, it's got a ton of micro SD card storage. It's got 6 things, and it's also a reader, so you can just put a micro SD card there and read off of it, which it wasn't really the point of me buying it. But the biggest thing was it's got this tiny little USB-C to USB-C cable right here, and then a bunch of adapters, so you can go from USB-A to C to micro USB to Lightning. And I think under it is also a SIM removal tool, which goodbye SIM card, we don't need that anymore. But yeah, it's just a kind of cool tool to I always seem to overpack for trips, and that's especially true for cables, and I'll just throw a bunch of cables in my bag. I'm I'll make sure that I have everything, even if I don't bring any USB-C. Well, I guess I have MacBooks now, but even if I don't have USB-C devices, I'll throw in a USB-C cable and whatever, just in case someone needs one. So this has been nice, and I've mostly used the just the cable adapters to plug something in when I don't know where a dedicated cable is. So it's been nice. I used it, when I went on my trip to Seattle, but I've also used it a couple times around the house, and I just throw it in my bag whenever I go up to the jobby job office and stuff. So yeah, kind of cool. It's cheap. The housing's made of metal, so that's kind of nice, but it's $23 on Amazon right now. And kind of just a forget about it until you need it good in a pinch type of thing, and you're not spending a ton of money on it, so you can just kind of throw it somewhere and let it go. So yeah,
that sounds really useful. My alternative to that, which is currently on the floor right here, if you're watching the YouTube version of this, is an Anchor 8 or 10 port, I don't remember which, USB-A power thing. And that's what I usually bring with me pre-pandemic, before I stopped traveling altogether. But that's what I usually brought with me to hotels, because hotels have a lack of power ports.
Oh yeah.
So I would just plug that thing in. That has a long cable. Put that in the middle of the bed, and then my wife and I would have at least three USB-A kind of cables each, for phone, watch, iPad, computer, and that has served me very, very well. But it is a giant mess of cable, and it's sure, I just kind of wrap it all up into one coil, and it just has its own dedicated cables that are attached to it. So that's one thing, but it adds a lot of heft. So if you want to travel light, which on my most recent trip, I had everything in my computer bag, and that was heavy. It was very heavy to walk around for 20 minutes with that. So having something lighter would definitely be something that I'm going to look into next time as I grow older and weaker. So
you frail man.
Oh yes, I'm 30. I break now. So yeah, I'll always happy to hear like new travel tips. So if you have any more of these, thumbs up. As always, I want to personally thank everyone for listening in this week. Please be sure to follow us on Twitter at Code Completion to know when new episodes go live, and feel free to tweet at us if there's ever a topic for us to dig into. Most importantly, as a small podcast, please be sure to share this with your friends and family who are also interested in any part of the process of app development. It's your support that enables us to continue doing this, and we hope to grow a healthy community around everything we discuss. Once again, I want to give a thanks to Spencer, who is at Spencer C. Curtis, that's SpencerCurtis on Twitter, for joining me this week. My name once again is Dimitri. You can find me at Dimitri Bouniol. That's DIMITRIBOUNIOL. And we'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
You don't want to be treasonous. I think that wins as a title.
Probably, huh?
And this is like my tagline ever since I turned 30. I just say it all the time because I think it's funny. So, Chainsaw Man. That was pretty raw.
It was pretty raw. I don't know if there's already a second episode. I've only seen the first one, but yeah,
I don't think so yet.
It's good. I'll watch it.
Yeah. So for those who don't know what we're talking about, there's a new anime out because it's new anime time, and that anime is Chainsaw Man, and it has been wildly like discussed over the past few years in terms of like this is the new raw thing. Like previously it was Attack on Titan and stuff like that. Now it's Chainsaw Man. And the beginning of the story is basically this kid who has basically been adopted by the mafia and forced to do their bidding because his father had a large debt, and that large debt has grown because the mafia is a bunch of what's that called? Debt sharks? No.
Loan sharks.
Loan sharks. There we go. They are those people who are bad. So like this guy, as he's grown up, he's sold his like kidney, various organs, eye. Not a great way to like live your life, and ultimately he gets thrown aside. But this is a world with demons, and he has a fun little demon dog who is also a chainsaw. He ends up giving his life to the demon dog, and he becomes Chainsaw Man. But yeah, the start of it is like real gut wrenching of like, gosh, like this poor guy. His life goal is to have bread with jelly on it. And at the very least, his life seems like it's going to take a turn for the better, because he not only gets bread with jelly, but also butter and some juice and a whole meal, other than just a slice of bread for his entire meal for the day. So that's good.
Yeah, it looks good. And it was it's got like 3D animation, which is like always like a little cringy in anime, but it actually looked really good, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I think they did it tastefully where you don't notice that it's 3D. So it's like in fast moving things that you're not gonna like pause and watch the 3D model like be very different than the 2D drawing, and then like be taken out of the immersion there. And we're not asking for much. Like anime is not 4K. Anime is like 720 at best most of the time, and then upscaled. And yeah, just like don't make it super obvious and cringy, and then that's fine, I'd say.
Yeah.
How was Bleach? I have not watched it yet.
Yeah, Bleach is so good, dude. Holy crap. It was like nostalgia hit so hard. Like 2 minutes into it, I was like, yay! Like getting emotional about it, dude. It was so, it's good. Yeah, I mean, that was like the anime of like my teens, right? So like I grew up with that in like high school and stuff. So having it come back was like, I mean, Dimitri and I have been talking about it for like months and months since it was announced and stuff. So we're both, I think, super excited. Really good. Looks really, really good. Like, I don't know how else to... I can't really explain. Like, I don't know. It's probably like a lot of emotions just like coming back and stuff, and that's what made it super cool. But it also just seems like really exciting, like a good. So I haven't read this whole arc of what's going to happen and stuff, so I'm really new to it. I've seen a couple things coming in super fresh, which is good. I read a little bit of when the original anime ended, but only I don't even think it got to like the point where it's starting at right now. So I don't know how anything's gonna go, which is exciting. To like get a whole new, era of Bleach and stuff. And it's like they look a little bit older and stuff, and it's in 1080p, which is cool, and it's 16:9 aspect
not
ratio.
4:3.
Yeah, we're actually in like the modern era, so that's cool. So yeah, it's super exciting. Definitely awesome. Give it a watch.
Yeah, I'm super sad that this is like on Hulu, which is like the one streaming service I refuse to support because they are basically cable companies reinvented.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm probably gonna wait so that way I can like binge it once it's done. But there's gonna be a lot to binge. I heard that it's gonna be 52 episodes split into 4 cores.
That's sweet.
With like 3-month breaks in between. So they're gonna take their time. That's probably gonna be like a 2-year session of Bleach. Which is fun.
That's good. Try not to.
Which means I probably won't watch any of it until like 2 years from now, which is gonna be sad.
Dude,
but maybe Crunchyroll will have it.
So hard. It's gonna be so hard for me to not talk to you about it, though.
But I know everything that happens, so you're good.
That's true. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's the sadness of having been someone who like really. Like, I subscribed to Shonen Jump and everything to read Bleach. Like, that was the thing that I was, like, really into reading. And it was very sad when it ended so abruptly. For those who don't know, it kind of, like, got pushed past the Aizen arc against the author's wishes. And then it kind of just got ignored once the anime ended. And did not really have the chance to properly finish. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how the anime redoes the ending, because the ending in the manga form was kind of abrupt and quick and didn't really give it a chance.
Hopefully it gets retconned a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Other cool anime that have started this season. There's Bocchi the Rock, or Hitori Bocchi, which is very. It speaks to my heart.
Yeah,
of being like that person who just like is socially inept in certain scenarios, especially growing up. And it talks about a girl who like wanted to be popular, so she learned how to play guitar, but then spent all that time playing guitar instead of learning to be popular. And therefore like missed out on like 5 years of chances to socialize with people, and has not been like super great at socializing. In my teens, this was watching Bleach in a weekend after discovering it on Toonami, and therefore like spending all my time watching anime. And yeah, instead of learning how to do something, unlike this person who learned how to actually play guitar, I learned how to watch anime. So it speaks to me at that level, at the very least.
Yeah, I was like, I it wasn't on my radar at all, and then Dimitri told me to watch it, and like I was getting like secondhand embarrassment from like the things that she'd do, and I'm like, oh crap, and it brought up freaking memories of me doing stuff in like junior high school too, and I'm like, oh man. But yeah, it spoke to me too. I was like, oh shoot, man, that's how it was.
Yep. Have you watched Beast Tamer?
No, I don't know anything about it.
Okay, so Beast Tamer is the anime you want to watch if you just want to die of like cuteness overload. The characters are cute, and if you like cats, and you like cat girls, then you're gonna be like, this is so adorable, and there's like nothing that can change this being so adorable, because it has reached maximal adorable cuteness.
Wow.
And that is something that Japan has perfected. In terms of anime. So that's all I have to say about it. It's just cute.
Cool.
So we look forward to watching it every week because it's the cuteness that we don't have in regular life because it is impossible to achieve. Yes. Yeah, that's Beast Tamer. I heard you were watching My Hero Academia, right?
Yeah. The new season started, and it started off just like freaking going hard, which was cool. This is like their 6th season. They have something like 140 episodes or something. So it's like, it's a nice one where, it's not 12 or 24 episodes, but it's like pretty deep and you get attached to people and stuff. So it's good. I honestly had kind of forgotten about it, and I didn't realize it was coming up this season. So that was kind of a fun surprise to jump back into it. So I think you're maybe a little behind, right? Like a few seasons behind, but
yeah, I stopped mid season 4 according to Crunchyroll. And I like remembered none of that. So the past like week-ish, we've been just binging My Hero. Cool. And like Lynn has been more into it than I have, so I'm like still working, and she's like, I'm gonna start playing this. Do you have any meetings? I'm like, no, not at the moment. So that's just been on like almost 24/7. So we're currently at like episode 60 something. Cool. So we're getting there, but we have another like 50 episodes to like catch up to. Like in a week or two we can talk about this.
Yes, let's do it. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. And then, have you been watching any others?
No.
Okay, so I have 2 to, recommend. The Shinobi no Itoki. I don't know what the English title for that one is. But it's basically what happens if ninjas kind of survived until modern day Japan. Okay. And they got like all. There was one scene where the kid. Okay, so the premise is the kid is part of like a ninja clan, but he didn't know it until he started getting like murder attempts sent his way. And then he was like, "Oh, you're the next head of the Yiga clan."
The Yiga.
And then that's his. The Yiga clan. That's his. Do you know why it's called the Yiga clan? Because like that is the OG ninjas from like a long time Japan ago.
From like Zelda? That was like that. That's what they pulled it.
No, Iga, IGA.
Oh, I thought you said Yiga, like in
basically the same
Breath
thing,
of the
isn't
Wild.
it?
All right, fair.
Yeah, so that all comes from like real history, and those were real life ninjas. And by real life ninjas, they basically hid in the woods and murdered people as they try to sneak by in warring era Japan. So this kid is like the supposed successor to them, and they're getting murdered. Murderous attempts sent their way and assassination attempts. And he's just like the useless Shinji character who's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to get in the robot. I don't want to be a ninja. But like one funny thing was he gets to the point where he's like, don't you have like water no jutsu and fire no jutsu? And the guy pulls out a cigarette. He's like, fire no jutsu. And then the girl takes out a cup and says, water no jutsu to turn out the cigarette. So it takes a more less mythical and more practical approach to ninjaing, although it does go into the sci-fi territory of like camouflage and all that. I thought that was a fun thing that started, though it's kind of getting tired with the I don't like getting a robot. So we'll see how much more I watch it. And then the only other one that we're watching is yet another one of these isekai into like dating sim games. I'm the villainess, so I'm taming the final boss, which is like a new genre that I've seen pop up quite recently, where someone ends up being reincarnated as the villainess in a game where you are trying to like win the hearts of all these beautiful male characters, and the villainess is there to like steal it. But then the villainess ends up getting taken over by a normal person from Japan, and they're like, I don't want to be an asshole. I'm going to be a good person. And like one other anime, they become a farmer to kind of change their course and not die and get like exiled somewhere. So in this case, the one is gonna like go and win over the heart of the demon king, and it seems cute. So we've been watching that one.
Cool.
So yeah. Lots of new anime.
Nice.
So,
yeah.
It's been good because the past season, like the one right before, it was kind of like there is nothing. and it's good to finally have something. I think there are a lot more being added too in the coming weeks.
Nice.
Anyways, bye everyone.
Bye.